Hello, and welcome to Your Sparkly Brand. We are here to inspire and empower entrepreneurs just like you. This podcast is all about delivering no fluff, high value content that helps you to grow your business. It doesn't matter if you have no budget and you're still DIYing everything on your own. We're giving you the tips, tools, and strategies that you need to build your sparkly empire. I'm Megan Gersh, your resident marketing and branding expert, and I'm here with my co-host, the copywriting queen, Lauren Tassi. Hey, Lauren, how's it going?
I'm good. Hi, Meg. How are you?
I'm good. I've been prepping for Burning Man this week, so it's like go time.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to introduce you to our guest today, Emily Barany. Emily is a serial social entrepreneur who has launched half a dozen businesses aimed at making the world a better place. In 2011, she launched VISIONALITY with a mission to help organizations dream big and a commitment to transform their dreams into reality. Emily wants to be a part of something big, projects that are bigger than the people involved and causes that will change the world. Originally from Colorado, Emily graduated from California Lutheran University with majors in communications and German, minor in philosophy. Emily loves doing agility with her best friend Scooter and baking complicated desserts to share with the people she loves. Welcome to Your Sparkly Brand, Emily.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay, and we're so happy to have you.
Yes. Very much. We were bantering before, and I just love what you guys are doing here. And I've been in business for a long time, and it was so fascinating that the content that you guys are producing is so relevant to me now, like 11 years in, growing a firm, knowing a lot of things, but still having a lot of things that I need to learn, but also putting myself in like the earlier years and thinking like, this would be relevant too to younger businesses. It's just like such a great thing that you guys are doing.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So we like to start every episode with our sparkly moment of the week. It's like our little win or celebration, something that makes you feel a little sparkly. So Meg, what's your sparkly moment of the week?
So I think I might have mentioned this on some other episodes, but I've been working really hard to get some passive income in place for my business. One of the things that I'm working on is creating website templates on a platform called Show It. And so I literally just before we're recording this, just finished up my second template. So I'm super, super excited. It's making me feel energized. Feel like I'm like making that progress toward that goal. So it's making me feel good. What about you?
Biggest month ever.
Yay!
Financially. So it's only August 24th, the day we're recording this. And I looked at it yesterday and I've definitely had 2 invoices paid since then. I've got 2 discovery calls on the books for the rest of the week. So it could still be going since then. I'm talking revenue, I'm in a growth phase. So I'm bringing on contractors. My expenses are up too. I don't know if it's my biggest profit month or not, but we are headed in the right direction.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. And do you have one, Emily, you want to share?
Okay, super duper do. And this is like very like deeply wonky operational win for me. So my primary company, Visionality, we're a service business. And historically, and one of our biggest hurdles, our different scopes of work are not standardized. And I just put the finishing touches on a brand new piece of software that we're implementing that allows you to standardize your scopes of work and create like 3 different levels of service with details under each level. And then the client can click through and select their level of service, sign the contract. So e-sign the contract, and then even like auto collect the payment. So now I'm standardizing my scopes of work. I'm empowering my salespeople to make the sale without me mucking up the system. I'm doing e-signatures instead of antiquated PDFs, and I am eliminating monthly invoices because it connects to their bank account and it auto draws the money. And I am so excited. It looks so good, so professional, and like is accomplishing 5 big long-term goals that I have had for my company. And I'm so excited.
Oh my God, that must just be like £1 million off your shoulders.
Truly.
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Emily, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your journey? Like, how did you come to become an entrepreneur?
Yes. So I have always been an entrepreneur since I was a little kid. So I did the roadside stand thing. I was always hustling, mowing lawns, doing whatever I could. And then my quote unquote real business was in middle school, and the movie Titanic came out when I was in middle school. And so I printed pictures of Leonardo DiCaprio and I sold them at school. And also in middle school, I would like create custom notepads for people. And so just sort of like all of these things. And then in college, I incorporated my first business. It was an indie record label. In that, I was the operations person. I was the one who figured out how to do all the things. I thought as I was graduating college that serious business people needed to get a job. So I got a job for 4.5 years in 2007, which was a bad time to get a job. So I was there for 4.5 years, made no advances, did not get additional responsibilities. And it's nobody's fault. It's just the time that I entered the workplace. And I thought, well, if anyone's going to limit me, it's going to be myself. I'm no longer able to only accept what someone else is able to give. And so I spent 10 months of nights and weekends fully setting up my business, writing the business plan, doing the website, like all the branding, all the marketing. And then I quit my job in October 2011 and literally walked out the door and my business was up and running and I had my first client. That's my primary company right now, VISIONALITY, that started in 2011.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do at VISIONALITY?
Yes, so our company works with nonprofits in periods of growth and decline. And so we work in 3 primary areas. So we help them with fundraising and communications. So setting that communications and fundraising strategy, helping them to get more donors, higher level donors. We also work in strategic planning. So that can be either like 3 to 5 year strategic plan for operations or a 2 to 3 year turnaround plan. So nonprofits follow the same business life cycle. So if they're in decline, we can create a turnaround plan to revamp operations and programs. And then we also do large scale conferences.
That's awesome. And so when you were starting the company, were there any challenges that popped up that you had to face as a new entrepreneur?
Only challenges? I definitely suffered from being younger than anybody in the room. I was 26 when I started my business, so I was always the youngest person in the room, often the only woman in the room, and that just sucks. That just is a challenge for especially young women, whether they're within a workplace or especially if they're starting on their own. With nonprofits too, the typical demographic of a board of directors, who's the one who's making a purchase decision, they're often men. And so older, more experienced men, and I'm just this 26-year-old, hire me to do this job. So that really was something hard to overcome. And even now, the only way we get business is word of mouth. And so we really just had to do really good work and prove that we were worth it and that we could get things done. Thankfully, that was good enough.
What led you to nonprofits, right? You're like, I'm starting a business. I need to make money. Let me work with people who don't make money.
Yes. So this is like such a common misconception about nonprofits. So nonprofits are still a business. They manufacture social change and then sell it to their donors, right? And so they still have revenue, and that revenue can be donation, it could be membership, it can even be earned revenue. So like maybe a nonprofit could own a building, for example, and then rent the building out. We have one client who gets hired by counties to do maintenance on their lands. So nonprofits still have revenue, and then they still have expenses. So that would be both operational expenses, but also programs. And then, so really being a nonprofit is just like a tax designation. And one of the things I'm very passionate about is educating people in our field that we are still businesses. Nonprofits have the same functionalities as a business. We just use different words for things. So the fundraising cycle is a sales cycle. You do cultivation, where you're putting people in your pipeline. You do solicitation, where you make the sale. And then you do stewardship, where you make your customers feel good about giving you money. And then hopefully they give you more money. So that was a really long-winded answer just about nonprofit operations. But I just saw a hole in the market. So the way that I started my company was actually to do back office administration for micro nonprofits. So these are organizations that are so small, they have no staff. So all volunteer board and just working, a handful of hours a week for a bunch of different micro nonprofits, professionalizing them, making the website look good, like professionalizing their emails, making the events run really smoothly. And so that truly was just literally no one does this. No one does this, period. And it's the only way that nonprofits can grow to hire their first full-time staff person. So that that's really where we started. We've actually let go of that line of business because what we learned is that if we do that kind of administrative work for an organization, they don't believe that we're capable of putting together a 5-year strategic plan for them. And so it created this perceived anchor of our abilities within the community. Like wherever you came into my business, that was your definition of our abilities. So we've, over the last 2 years, sunsetted that line of business, which is sad because still nobody does it, but it continually was a hindrance in selling our higher level work. And so it's like, well, then we just need to let it go.
Awesome. I think that's really interesting because, when I was getting started at copywriting, a lot of people were like, well, I really like working with theater or like nonprofits specifically. And I feel like there's just this general sort of like, well, they don't make any money. And I think that like, that's a really limited way of thinking about it. As you saw a hole in the market, you saw that, and now you've had this business for 11 years. So I think that like, if somebody is like feeling called to support those types of businesses, then like you should go for it and not listen to anybody who says that like, they don't make money.
100%, period, end of story, 100%. And this is something that I love about my business. At this moment, my job is to be the CEO of this company. I'm doing very little actual client work, doing fundraising, doing strategic planning. And so just this whole concept, my job is the CEO, but I get to make the world a better place every single day by running a really good company that does really good work for nonprofits. So we're still a for-profit, but our clients are nonprofits and their job is to make the world a better place, and we help them do that. And it's just fun, and it's a way to touch different areas of the social sectors without having to actually do the work in every single way. I can just run a good company and hire really good people to do really good work.
So since Visionality, you have launched other businesses and passion projects as well. Can you tell us about those? How were you like, give me more businesses, please?
Yes. So I live in Southern California, and in December 2017, we had a massive, devastating wildfire. It burned 500 homes in the middle of the night, the first night, and it was utterly devastating. And I was evacuated. Most of my team was evacuated. Most of our clients were evacuated. Some had lost homes. And so the day after, the fire burned for weeks, but the day after it started, I closed my company for 2 weeks. I emailed all of our clients. I said, we're closed for 2 weeks. I paid my staff to take care of themselves and take care of their friends and family. Again, everyone knew somebody who lost a home that first night. And I had this cute idea that I was going to watch movies for 2 weeks or something. But of course, I can't do that. And so I decided to get involved in the recovery efforts. And again, I saw a hole in the market where the community wants to help during a disaster, but no one tells them how. So they make up ways to help that are actually not helpful. We have horror stories of fire trucks can't get into the fire station because there's so much donated bottled water. So what I did is created an online portal for community members to offer help to the community. And it was up to those who were displaced or affected by the fire to accept that help. So we sort of reversed the roles where people were offering, but there was no way to collect it and organize it and channel it. And then it was just up to the survivors to say, oh, yes, this is what I need. This is what I need. I don't need this. I do need that. So that was sort of our origin story. It worked really well. A month later, we had a mudslide in my community. 21 people died. It was, again, truly devastating. And it closed the 101 freeway for 2 weeks. And so we created a volunteer airline. So we got 64 private individuals with airplanes plus one helicopter, and they volunteered to move people on either side of the mudslide. And so we flew 117 individuals, and they were heart surgeons, neonatal nurses, chemo patients, kids with special medical needs that needed to get to their specialty appointments. And we flew as far north as Palo Alto and as far south as San Diego, and to pretty much every municipal airport in between. And that flex moment where I stepped back and was like, 64 airplanes? Are you kidding me? I'm turning away airplanes. We have too many airplanes. And that to me was the flex moment of in volunteer work. As long as your request is specific, you can do anything. You just need to make it specific, and then the people who meet those requirements will show up. People are powerful, and people want to help. We have, good intentions inside of us. And so all I did was create a call to action for people to step up and help their community in whatever way they could.
I had a question quickly about the portal that you mentioned. Is that like a permanent fixture on the internet that kind of like flexes between like essentially like disasters that happen or like unpredicted events? Or is it like a sort of like a product that kind of exists? Or like, is it permanent or is it just kind of like a pops up as it needs to kind of thing?
That's the vision. We need a serious amount of cash to make the vision happen. So I ran it all by myself for 2 years. I spent all of my money and I spent a chunk of my business's money getting it off the ground. And essentially, we're at the stage where we have serious proof of concept, but we need a serious investment to make it scalable. So I was speaking at FEMA conferences in November 2019, and then the pandemic hit, and it just had to go on the shelf because I couldn't keep both afloat, and Visionality is what pays my bills. And so, and I'm responsible for other people's bills. I have a team of 6. And so it just had to go on the shelf. So it's got this beautiful proof of concept across 6 natural and man-made disasters. We've got, a 5-year ramp up plan. We've got wireframes for the app. Like, it's ready to go. But, and this is such an interesting thing for entrepreneurs, right? Like, we can do really big things, and that's a good accomplishment. And I'm proud of the work that I did, and I helped a lot of people, and it's not what I want. It hasn't achieved my vision yet, which is global community aid network. And it's just a moment, I guess, for me of humility and patience to say, like, that was a good idea. I thought I was the right person to bring that idea to the world. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but like, it's just, I don't know. What do you guys think? It's such an interesting, like, inflection moment of having big success, but not yet achieved like the full vision, the big vision that I had for this thing. Have you guys run into that?
I haven't run into that specifically. My sister has a company that she's been working on since college. I don't want to get too far off track, but it's this nut that grows in sub-Saharan Africa that they can turn into a protein that would literally, like, it solves like droughts, it solves hunger, and it also pays living wages to women in Ghana. Like, it's one of the, like, that, like, it solves all these problems. And so it's something she's been working on for a decade now at this point. And so I know she's in that same place where it's like, okay, well, then you got to get funding, but it's a lot of work to get funding. And so she's been sort of on a stop start with that over the past 10 years, taking full-time jobs and kind of putting it on the shelf for a little bit. So I think that sometimes it's about like the timing of it. And maybe you're going to meet the right person who knows the other right person next week, or it'll be 3 years from now. But just sort of having that in your back pocket as like, I have this thing and it's wonderful, but I just don't know what else to do with it.
Yeah. And no matter what, the work that we did was, of course, good for our community. It was good for my brand as an entrepreneur because I got to flex really hard about solving big problems in a brand new creative way and building efficiencies into a process that is deeply inefficient. And, just like as a entrepreneur and as a brand, I, won a lot of awards, which sounds so like vapid, but it matters. Like 10 years ago, I won a 40 under 40 and people continued to be deeply impressed by this. And I'm like, every year they honor 40 people. Like, you just submit your name. Like, it's not as impressive as it sounds, but like awards actually matter for entrepreneurs, and it gives you legitimacy as you're earning your stripes a little bit. And so, no matter what, all that stuff was really good collectively, but I certainly stand in this moment of like disappointment and like, what ifs, did I make some bad decisions or did everything happen the way it's supposed to happen? And it's one of those things where in hindsight, you're going to look back and just know everything happens when it's supposed to happen in the order it's supposed to happen. This is the way of the world.
Yeah. I mean, just keep in mind too, we're in the middle of the story. It's not the end.
Right.
Don't give up hope just yet.
Okay, I won't.
So I want to change tracks a little bit because we talked about this when we met a couple months ago. I know you're a big advocate for hiring moms. So let's talk about that. How can we as business owners create a parent-friendly workplace?
Love it. I was very lucky that my very first employee 8 or 9 years ago was a new mom. And so I was hiring my first employee 2 to 5 hours a week. And I put out this job description. I'm part of a female entrepreneur network. And so I put it out to this network thinking, someone else who's starting their business might want some income while they're getting their business business launched, and someone took me up on it. And we had this beautiful meeting where I was like, I think I can afford up to 5 hours a week. And she's like, I think I can raise my kid and still work 5 hours a week. And, she's been with me ever since. So we actually designed my company around supporting working parents and having a healthy work-life balance. And what's brilliant is, what's that saying that you need to invest time working on your business, not in your business. And because she was mostly a mom working 5 hours a week, and oh, by the way, like if someone got sick, she's not showing up to work. So she couldn't do client work for me. So what that meant is I had a dedicated person working 2 to 5 hours every single week on my business. And so it was always her job to figure out the next operational improvement and implement it. And so she was the one who implemented our bookkeeping system. And now, we have our bookkeeper. When we were ready to hire more employees, she implemented our payroll system. And we've since, gone a couple rounds improving that. When we were ready to be serious about marketing and business development, she developed those systems. So it really is like having that dedicated person working on your business, not in your business, is really brilliant. And I credit that with our stability right now. And also, working parents are really great. They're really good time managers. They're really smart. And it's not actually that difficult to create space for them. Even growing a small business, it's really hard to hire a full-time employee. Like that's a big jump from 1 employee to 2 employees, or right now I'm jumping from 6 to 9 employees. Like those are big jumps, but parents want a part-time job. And so you're actually able to grow in a much more like incremental, achievable way. Plus, like, can we take a moment to talk about social equity and how, it's often the women who take a step back from their professional goals in order to raise kids. And I love that. And I respect that. And after you've raised kids and you've been out of the workforce for 7 or 10 years, like it's really hard to get back into the workforce. And so my employee's whole goal was just to keep her toe in work so that when all of her kids went to school, which is happening literally this morning, the first one went to kindergarten, the last one went to kindergarten. Yeah. She's able to put more energy into her career. And so she just, she kept her toe in. If you're out of the workforce for 7 years, Microsoft Word is a different program. And that's like such a little example, but it's true. And so just by like making space for her to work a handful of hours every week, it made my business stronger, but it also preserved her ability to return to work in a really meaningful way. And for the first time in 9 years, she has her own client. Like she's finally doing it and able to offer the magic that she's been doing for my business to our clients. And so it really is really good for your business, but also really important for social equity.
So let's talk about your marketing and branding in your business. How important has that been to your strategy, and how has that impacted where you are today?
I love this question so much. So 2.5 years ago, I hired my replacement because I was sure that my nonprofit was launching and I was going to be the CEO of my nonprofit. And so I hired my replacement to run the daily operations of VISIONALITY. We had a pandemic, so it took both of us to get through the pandemic. But part of the charge of my COO was to help us become a big girl company. So we were suffering from founder syndrome, where my own perceived limitations of the level of work that we could do, or even the way that we showed up in our community, started to hold us back. And so I hired my replacement, and she helped us rethink our voice, rethink the way we show up. We redid the website, we redid all of our language, we rewrote our job descriptions, because if you can't tell, I love a superlative. And so just transitioning our company from Emily's voice to VISIONALITY's voice, which has been so important. It's made us much stronger. It's allowed us to attract a more diverse employee base, more diverse contracts. And so just it's interesting because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we are our brand. And I know to some level or another, like we're all growing firms where it's not me. it's my firm. It's my firm's voice. It's my firm's reputation. It's my firm's collective experience. It's not about me anymore. And so going through this rebranding has just really helped us move into this next phase of our business. We're not a baby business anymore. We're 11 years old. We're a big girl company now, and like updating our voice and the way we showed up in the community really allowed us to up level the kind of work that we do too.
I love that. So we talked a little bit about awards. Are there other ways that you measure success as an entrepreneur?
Okay, I've been thinking so much about this because at this exact moment, I'm wearing a lot of hats because we're understaffed. And what I've realized is the measurement of success for my different hats are different and in opposition to one another. So I have a client load right now because we're hiring for 2 full-time client-facing positions. So when I am successful, the measurement of success for my clients is, did I write a really compelling case statement for our client to start fundraising off of? And that requires me to be very quiet and focused for 4 hours, tune everything else out, and just sit in my office at my computer doing nothing else. That comes at the cost of me being a CEO, which is me mentoring my team. It's researching if there's any opportunity for my company in the legislation that's getting passed right now. It's talking with other CEOs to find that software that was my sparkly success earlier, researching it, testing it, implementing it, and rolling it out, right? That's success for Emily, the CEO. Success for Emily, who does business development, is going to lunch. And when I'm at lunch, I'm not writing the case statement. And so I'm in this moment of knowing that I need to focus on one job, because the measurements of success for the different hats come at the cost of one another, which is why we're hiring so many people and separating out all of those jobs so that we can each feel successful. We have one lane and we can feel successful in that lane because the measurement of success is consistent.
I feel like that's kind of an interesting kind of thought in general, is just that success in quotes is kind of relative, right? Like, and it is defined by like, it doesn't have to be, a certain number of followers or some other vanity metric. It can be like, winning at one specific thing. It just depends on like how you define that in your role and like in your business.
We're still in a pandemic, right? And I probably will not be profitable this year. For the first time in 11 years, I made a profit every single year, including year 1, but it's very possible that this year we won't be profitable. So that typically is the measure of success. How much profit did I make? And so, in the pandemic, because we had our fundamentals nailed, we got a ton of PPP money and a ton of idle money. And so we're able to invest that success, right, of having really strong fundamentals and therefore getting a ton of federal aid into making this year a success, which means we can still grow even though we're probably not going to turn a profit this year. We're investing that money that is like the result of years of hard work, just nailing our basics, which again is like not sexy. Like, we close out our books every week and we file our taxes on time, like, and we don't misclassify our employees, like, but all of that hard work meant that we get to be resilient in this moment because we nailed our fundamentals. And so it's weird too. Yes, success, the measurement of success is relative, because if all I was looking at was if I was in the black or the red, this would not be a successful year, but it's absolutely a successful year.
So aside from your business and humanitarian efforts, let's talk about like your hobbies. Like, what do you like to do outside of work and how do you like to enjoy life?
Yes, exercise is deeply linked to my mental and emotional health. And so I do lots of exercise, lifting weights, and also like hiking and walking on the beach with friends. So that's like really core to my happiness. I have a dog that I love very much, and we go to the beach. We do doggy agility together. I've got family in Colorado, so I spend a lot of time back there hanging out with my brother's kids and my parents and my brother. So that's kind of it. It's a lot of work right now. She's got a lot of work happening.
So I know it sounds like you're creating a lot of software for your business. Are there any tools or sort of tricks you use? If you're not creating it, what are sort of what are your tools you're using every day?
I'm obsessed with tools. I use a lot of tools. So probably my number one tool is a Gmail add-on. It's called Boomerang. And so Boomerang will pull an email back into your inbox. So it makes me look like a follow-up genius because I can say, like, if Lauren doesn't reply to my email by Friday at 7 a.m., boomerang this back into my inbox. And then I'm like, hey, Lauren, haven't heard from you yet. Like, just following up. And so I look brilliant. They also have a calendar add-on that makes it super easy to schedule meetings. And this too, like, there are lots of softwares that do this, but it's nice just because it's one tool. So that's a huge one for me. We also use a program called Zapier, which is an intermediary program that connects other programs. And so one example, when we're running a large scale conference, we can connect our registration software to like a Google Sheet or something. So the client doesn't need to ask us for the registration lists. They just can check and it automatically populates there. I use a text expander a ton. So like in my email communications, I close my emails the same. So looking forward to it. Happy Friday. I appreciate you. And so those all have keyboard shortcuts. So if I type capital LF space, it says looking forward to it, Emily. And so again, that's like a super simple thing. I have my Zoom URL in a text expander. So I don't have to look up my Zoom URL every time. I just type Zoom in all caps and there it is. So that one works pretty well too.
I love how simple yours are because sometimes I'm just like, oh yeah, I need that. Why always have to I go into my notes and copy and paste the Zoom link and yeah, duh.
Well, and this one is so dumb too, but I have a Word doc that is titled Numbers Emily Always Needs. And it's my EIN number. It's the numbers that you need 10 times a year. And you're just like, crap, where do I find that? And it just like saves so much time. And it's a stupid Word document of numbers that Emily always needs.
I love that. So one question that I love that we ask on this podcast, we ask it to everybody that comes on the show, but if you could go back in time and talk to your younger business self, what would you say to that younger Emily? Like if you could give her one piece of advice.
Yeah. So the piece of advice that 11 years ago Emily needed to hear was you won't be billing 40 hours a week. So set your pricing accordingly, and completely underestimated how much time it takes to operate a business, even if you're a sole proprietor. It takes so much time, and I didn't account for that. I didn't plan for that. I set my prices far too low, and even now I struggle with some imposter syndrome around knowing that my place in this business is really important. Now that I'm not doing a lot of like actual client work, I'm like, well, you're just overhead. Like, why are you getting money? Just like, you're not even doing the work. And it's like, well, no, there's quite a lot of work that none of my employees want to do. They would like to do the client work. And so it's just interesting that when you're starting a business or running a business, that the value of overhead, and it's not negotiable. Invoices don't send themselves. New business does not just walk in the door. The books do not just get balanced.
So what are you working on? What's coming up for you and your businesses?
We are growing. We are growing. So we're growing from 6 to 9 employees right now. And so that is looking, it's looking like continuing to streamline and standardize things. The more your team grows, the more things need to be like really tight and really consistent. And so we use a task management software called Monday.com. So really making sure that every employee is using Monday instead of keeping their own to-do list, because it's hard to collaborate when you don't know what people are doing. We just finished the most beautiful employee handbooks that I have ever seen, and they are, of course, legal, right? It's a legal document, but they're also kind. So they're like in line with our values as a company. They're ethical, they're generous, they're flexible, but they're also like worded really well. Like it's not cold, it's still warm. And so I'm just like so proud of this document that has taken a year to complete. great because it's legal. It checks the legal box. You need to have a handbook that your employees sign when they come on, but it's also absolutely authentic to the values and the voice of my company. And so I'm really proud of that. We're going to implement that this year as well. That's what we're doing.
That is awesome. I love that. So this has been such a treat to chat with you. I have learned so much, and also it's just been awesome to learn about your business. So thanks for coming on the show. Can you tell our listeners where to find you online, social media, website, all of that good stuff?
Sure. I guess hit me up on LinkedIn, Emily Barany. Love to connect with everybody.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And thank you to our listeners for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay sparkly.